What's going on, people? That sounds like a healthy respiratory system if I've ever heard one. I'm sure I've done no damage to my respiratory system over the years. None whatsoever, I tell you. None whatsoever. I ain't never done any damage to my respiratory system, I tell you what. How's everyone? The one person watching. Hello, one person watching. I haven't been paying attention to the news. I don't know why people bother paying attention to the news. Supposedly, there's apparently less than 1,000 deportations is a lot, somehow. Florida recently, illegal immigrant wise. And I gotta say, could do better than that. Definitely in Florida, considering that Florida is both parallel with Mexico and in the Caribbeans. It is just a part of the Caribbeans that is attached to the United States. So I gotta say, could definitely do better than that. Um, and in my opinion, this is more support to what I've been saying, which is that the private sector in Florida is not interested in solving the immigration problem. The local governance of Fort Myers, Florida, fought tooth and nail to not have to comply with ICE. That is how complicit the private sector is in not wanting to handle the illegal immigration problem nor the deporting problem. Um, Furthermore, why should the taxpayer pay themselves? That seems counterintuitive. A stipend at the expense of the taxpayer in this economic climate to pay the illegal immigrants to deport themselves seems ridiculous, if you ask me. No, I am not. It is a reference to an individual named Francis Edek Esquire, who was a lawyer. So it is a reference to a real person who was a lawyer. Now back to what I am saying. It makes no sense to me to have the taxpayer pay for the illegal immigrants to deport themselves. This makes no sense. The ones that colluded with the cartels and the coyotes to facilitate the smuggling of the illegal immigrants so they could be used as a cheap workforce in the United States was done by the private sector. The private sector hired these people at the expense of the taxpayer, and the private sector is now attempting to, they're interfering with the comings and goings of the people trying to deport the illegal immigrants because they are not interested in the illegal immigrants being deported. So if you ask me, the private sector is the one that should be offering this $1,000 stipend for the illegal immigrants to deport themselves. If anything, the private sector is the one that should be paying $1,000 per illegal immigrant stipend for these illegal immigrants to deport themselves. If ICE is incapable of deporting the illegal immigrants, if ICE is not capable of deporting the illegal immigrants, yet somehow the federal police is capable of responding to tips from people that don't live in the United States, they're caught. So federal police, SWAT teams, local police, they're capable of responding to every fake police call ever made at the expense of the United States taxpayer, and the Constitution. I believe it should be classified as unlawful search and seizure if you are responding to fake calls made by any and everyone that results in an investigation being made on my property. I would say that classifies as unlawful search and seizure. So the government is capable of unlawful search and seizure by responding to any and every call, regardless of the validity of it, made in any major population center. So if we're going to operate like that, I find it hard to believe that ICE is not capable of finding and deporting the illegal immigrants. And I don't believe that the taxpayer should have to pay $1,000 stipend per immigrant for the immigrants to deport themselves when we're already paying for ICE. And the private sector is the one that colluded with the cartels and the coyotes to facilitate the smuggling of this cheap workforce into the country to begin with. So the private sector should be the one paying $1,000 per illegal immigrant for the illegal immigrants to deport themselves, not the taxpayer who has been suffering consequences as a result of the private sector organizing the smuggling of this cheap workforce into the United States to begin with. If the private sector is the one that colluded with the cartels and the coyotes, the private sector is the one that should be paying them $1,000 per immigrant to deport themselves. That's the bottom line. There is no way, shape, or form you can slice it where the taxpayer has to pay the cost of this cheap workforce being smuggled into the United States by crime rings. There's no way the United States should have to pay for them to come in, suffer consequences as a result of them being here, and then pay for them to leave and pay for the deporting federal police that are supposed to deport them. So we're paying for the police that are supposed to deport them. The police that are supposed to deport them all aren't deporting them all. And now the taxpayer has to pay $1,000 per person for them to leave? That makes no sense. That's like quadruple dipping. a nice day out so far. That's something to be happy about. It's a nice day out so far. Who knows how long that's going to be the case. I'm sure it's going to get hot very quickly. That tends to be the way she goes out here. Things tend to get hot before they get cool here. Well, that'll do. That'll do nicely. That'll do, Donnie. That'll do. You did it. You did it again, you beautiful bastard. Francis, you beautiful son of a bitch. With a face only a mother could love. Let's be honest, even your mother doesn't love your face, Francis. But that'll do. That'll do, Francis. Oh yeah, that did it. So we got big days ahead of us, folks. We got big days ahead of us, people. You know, I'm happy and nervous at the same time about the future. But, you know, one thing they'll never be able to say about me. One thing they'll never be able to say about me is that, you know, they'll never be able to say that I didn't keep long. I've kept spinning my tires, even though there seems like there's no reason for me to spin my tires. Seems like I'm just along for the ride in life sometimes. Sometimes it seems like I'm just along for the ride. You know, I had to cut off every long-term friendship I had, but I mean, let's face it, there's plenty of people who have, you know, had to step away from every long-term friend group they've had at one point or another in their life. I'm not unique in that aspect, but, you know, there certainly doesn't seem like much of a reason or point, and I'm talking about a point to life. I'm not saying that I am sad as an individual. I'm pretty much in a constant maintained state of blah emotionally. I am usually emotionally in a state of blah and usually at a low resting heart rate. I do not know. Hold on. My heart rate is at 68 right now. Like, I usually got a pretty chill heart rate, and I'm usually I'm usually in an emotional state of blah. So I'm not saying that I am sad when I'm saying that I don't think life has much of a point. It quite often seems like and I'm talking about this in a nihilistic sense, not in a manic depressed sense. I'm talking about a philosophical nihilistic sense when I say that I quite often feel like I am just along for the ride in life, but I do believe I do believe that I am lucky in the sense I do believe that I am lucky in the sense that I have a job at the moment that a lot of people would feel lucky to have. I think a lot of people would feel lucky to be able to uh, do what I do, and anyone can. But it is not an easy path to walk. It is a difficult path to walk. This is not a path in life meant for everyone. I've come across like people who were like career outlaw bikers, you know, things like that. You know, those are the kind of people. Those are the kind of people fit to walk the path that that I walk in life, and I can't overindulge. I can't overindulge in specifics for obvious reasons, obvious privacy concerns, self-defense, and all that. But yeah, I am lucky, but I am not at the same time. I am lucky, but not lucky at the same time. You know, people look down on me, but I am fairly unconcerned with people's opinions. You know, obviously, being a single, unattractive guy is lonely, and I have a career. I most certainly have occupations that are meant for people who are single. A lot of the things that I've done for money in life are things that would take up too much time and pay too little money for a person that has mouths to feed and like a family. It just wouldn't be possible. I'm really the only kind of person in the United States that can be used as human, I don't know, that could be used as disposable grunt work for the private sector, to work jobs that give no respect, no social status. I'm the only person that can really handle that kind of abuse, and it's not because I'm uniquely mentally strong or anything like that. It is literally just because I am the only kind. I'm like, there's not a ton of people born in the United States that are still in the situation that I am in, where you can pay them less than enough money to survive, and they'll keep showing up, and they'll keep having reliable transportation, and they're willing to work the hours in exchange for the compensation they'll receive for the hours worked. There's not a ton of people born in the United States that could be abused like that by the private sector. for years and years and years and years and years and keep showing up despite not being paid enough money to survive, despite, I do attribute the fact that I am single somewhat to the fact that I haven't been paid enough money by the private sector. So, like, I do attribute the fact that I am single entirely on the fact attribute some of that blame to never paying me enough money to survive. Um, so, you know,